local criminal defense lawyer. I was also prior president of the Pinellas Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and I'm the current Pacdl rep with Pacdl. I have the privilege today of introducing our moderator, who really needs no introduction, as I'm sure you all recognize his face. Today we've got Josh Rojas, who's going to be moderating. Just a little bit about him. He graduated from the University of Colorado with a Bachelor's of Science in Journalism in 1999. He worked as a reporter for the NBC affiliate KOBR-TV in Roswell, New Mexico, and also KOB-TV in Albuquerque from 1999 to 2004. In 2004, he moved to San Antonio, Texas, where he worked as a reporter for the Fox affiliate KABB, and finally moved to St. Petersburg in 2006 to report for Spectrum Bay News 9, where I'm sure you have all seen his face often. He's also a fill-in anchor for Bay News 9. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Josh Rojas.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's so great to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me to this, and it's an honor to host this forum. Let's go ahead and start by introducing our candidates. For Circuit Group 27, we have Scott Finelli, Judge Keith Meyer, and now let's go to County Court Group 1. We have Della Cope, David Moran, Megan Roach, and now for County Court Group 12, 13, Judge Kathleen Hessinger, Ken Afienko. All right, and last but not least for, let's see, Circuit Group 22, that's right. All right, Nick Fiorentino, and Judge Cynthia Newton. All right, welcome to all our candidates. Everybody, so you're each going to have 1 minute. We've got a lot of candidates up here, 1 hour, so you're each going to have 1 minute to answer the questions. And we'll start on the left here and just go down and pull up the questions here. First one really is the easiest. We just want to know, why did you choose to run this year for judge, and why now?
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I guess probably I should stand. That would make it easier for everybody to see me in the back. It was a lifelong decision, or something that I always contemplated. I came from a different background. Originally was a teacher. And to me, becoming a judge, a circuit court judge, is the ultimate form of public service. Just something that I've always had a desire to do once I got into the legal profession. So I think as though that the role of a judge is a very crucial part of our community and our system of justice and government. So that's why I think I chose to throw my hat in the ring after practicing for 11 years and giving it a shot and see what happens. And by the way, I'm Scott Finelli, for those of you that didn't catch that for Group 27. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Keith Meyer, and it has been my honor to serve you as your circuit judge for going on the last 12 years. Theme of our campaign is the same as it was last time, which was fair and experienced. Over the last 12 years, I think I've gotten even more fair and more experienced. It's just a wonderful job. I love going to work every day, have a smile on my face. Not always when I get home at the end of the day, but certainly at the start of the day. But I love doing what I do. Lifelong resident of this county, third-generation lawyer, and I do know from experience how vital our profession is and our court system is to our community, that we have fair, accessible courts, that we have predictable results, and where the law is followed. And I get extremely nervous at these. It doesn't matter how many I go through. I mean, I could be in a courtroom and picking 100 jurors. I'm, not nervous at all. These, very nervous. So if you hear a quaver in my voice, it's because I'm super excited to be here, and I ask for you to vote for me, if you haven't already, on August 23rd. Thank you.
All right, Della.
Hi, I am Della Cope. I decided to run for county court judge because I think that judges can make a real difference in people's everyday lives in county court, whether it's someone who's in the court system for the first time, needs a little more patience and guidance, or young lawyers who are just starting out and also need a little more patience and guidance. And I think that's where I can actually really make a difference with my experience. I decided to run now, the journey kind of started 2 years ago, 2020, when I started representing the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office in risk protection orders, and working a lot with unrepresented people, and I was in the courtroom again on an everyday basis, and I really remembered how much public service means to me. I was going home every day feeling so good about what I did that day, and I think I can do even more and help people on a more widespread basis as a county court judge. Thank you very much.
So why now? Why not now? After 18 years of practicing, the only board certified criminal trial lawyer or of any certification in my group, I've got the requisite experience, I have the compassion, and I have the community. I grew up here in Pinellas County, like some of the folks up here. I've been practicing at the public defender's office for 14 and a half years. I've represented the people for People's Court. That's what county court is. So, with Judge John Carballo leaving us, that leaves a big gap as far as defense-oriented or defense background judges. And doesn't mean I'm going to be just wayward and liberal on the bench. We're going to follow the law, but we need that perspective. And that's why I asked you to vote for me if you haven't, now or before August 23rd. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Roach, and I was also born and raised here in Pinellas County, and I am passionate about serving this community where I was raised. I have had the unique opportunity in my years practicing to practice in almost every county in the state of Florida, which is uncommon for the vast majority of judicial candidates, and I think that it is very important and really sets me apart. I've been able to see how other jurisdictions and other counties run their courtrooms and see what things work and what strategies are the most effective for the fair and timely administration of justice. I will use that experience to serve the residents of Pinellas County if elected. I understand the relationship between an attorney and a client. I've worked in large and small law firms which have vastly different dynamics in many ways. I understand the time constraints and financial constraints that, please vote for me, thank you.
Respect now 1 minute, we appreciate that. All right.
All right, so I guess the answer to the question on Kathy Hessinger is why I'm running this year is because I drew an opponent. I've been judge for county court judge for the last 17 years, but I'm glad I have the opportunity to remind you why I'm here. I was a skilled, known trial attorney before I became a judge in 2004. I had experience in both criminal and civil practice. I tried numerous trials in both civil and criminal court. I had trespasses, I had personal injury protection cases, I had medical malpractice cases. As your judge, I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm doing it as a judge. I'm trying trespass, personal injury protection, and I've also had circuit trials such as medical malpractice. My experience as a professor at Stetson College of Law for trial advocacy has been a huge benefit also because in county court I'm getting the young attorneys right out of law school, and I am the one that's helping teach them to be skilled trial attorneys that you all want to have in your firms. Thank you.
Hello, I'm the opponent. No, seriously, my name is Ken Afienko. I am here today, obviously, in Group 13, running for County Court Judge. And as my colleagues have said, this is the People's Court. I've been in law enforcement for 41 years, and I've been an attorney for 24 years. Yes, for those of you who count, that is overlapping in some degrees. Excuse me. Some of the running jokes are I put them in jail, and then on the way out I give them my business card to represent them. So, no, in all seriousness, I've always been a people person. I've always done my best as a law enforcement officer to serve the public. I've continued to serve them for 41 years, and I'll continue to do that on the bench. I also do it with pride, passion, and fairly. I think that's probably the most important thing. Plus, getting the law done, getting it correct, I suppose, is a very important thing as well. And I've done it as a law enforcement officer. I'll continue to do that on the bench. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Attorney Nick Fiorentino. I've been practicing in the Sixth Circuit for nearly 2 decades. I practice family law, personal injury, probate, and criminal law. Service is very important to me in my career and in my personal life, and I believe serving as a judge would be the highest form of service an attorney can give. I'm running now because I believe it's important to have the life and legal experience necessary to be a circuit court judge. I believe I have that at this time, and that's why I chose to run. I think it's important that we have judges who treat people with respect, apply the law fairly and consistently, and work hard for the people they're serving. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Cynthia Newton. I'm currently a circuit court judge. This is my 18th year on the bench. I was elected in 2004 when I ran in an open seat, and I've spent 5 years in the family law division, 7.5 years in the criminal division, and 5.5 years in the civil division, where I'm currently assigned in the downtown St. Petersburg courthouse. I've always worked in a courthouse. My first job out of law school was at the public defender's office, where I spent the first 10 years of my career, a job I absolutely loved, met the most wonderful colleagues that I've ever worked with, and loved my time in the courtroom trying jury trials. And that's what really made me want to make the transition, but remain in the courtroom. So I'm still going to a courthouse and a courtroom every day, something that I love to do, and a place where I'd love to continue working. And I hope for your support and ask for your vote on August 23rd. Thank you for having us.
All right, next question. What types of community service and/or pro bono work have you provided as an attorney or a judge?
Well, I actually devote about 10 to 15%, depending on the current caseload, to pro bono and reduced fee clients. I've also done quite a bit of extensive guardian ad litem work since about 2013. And usually those cases are ones where I don't charge a fee for them. I have one right now, as a matter of fact, that's been going on for about 3 years. So that's essentially what I do in terms of the legal field, because in terms of the things I've done as far as volunteer and reduced fee work. I think that's very vital to do. Outside of that, I've volunteered with things like I was a past board member of the West Pasco SPCA. That's where I'm essentially from, is the Pasco area, where we did a lot of grant writing and things like that for spay-neuter clinics and things of that nature. I've done some volunteer work for Special Olympics in the past and Toys for Tots. Those are usually things involving children or animals, are kind of what are the big things that kind of grab my attention most. So, thank you.
Before I start my time, the next question, can we start down there? Because I hate waiting my turn, but I know it's going to be mad at me.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm an open book, so check me out on the internet about my charitable works. I'm a member of the Clearwater Rotary Club, who meets in the town of Bel Air. Go figure that one. And when I first joined that club, I was the chairperson of the Kingfish Committee, Kingfish Tournament Committee. And my old law partner, Don Tinney, and I decided we were going to involve the Southern Kingfish Association, and we raised $75,000, if that. We had a lot of fun in Rotary over the years, but done a lot of service projects with that. I'm a former deacon in my church, which is Peace Memorial Presbyterian Church in downtown Clearwater. It's the Pink Church, a little church there. And done a lot of service through my church over the years. When I was in private practice, I was recognized by the Supreme Court. I got a little pin, I think, for pro bono service. And now as a circuit judge, I frequently accept invitations to speak to groups, school kids, so on and so forth, to educate the public about the vital importance of our profession and our court system. And I think that's a public service that I engage in regularly. Thank you.
So I am a partner in a small law firm in Clearwater. We do mostly plaintiff civil litigation, and we do quite a bit of pro bono work. I think most notably, I recently represented the estate of Deputy Michael Magley, who was tragically killed on duty on February 17th of 2021. I'm sorry, I still get a little choked up on that one. But other than that, I do volunteer extensively at my son's school. I'm an active member of the PTA, and I spent the first 14 years of my career as a public servant. I was a state attorney for 10 years, and I worked for the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for a little over 4 years after that. So I put a lot of my time and effort into my work. I work a lot of hours, And that, I think, is a public service in and of itself, and that's what I will continue to do as a county court judge.
So during law school, I started with the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Delaware. I was a big brother for a young man for about 1.5 years before I moved back here to Florida to take the bar. When I was taking the bar, I was actually assistant basketball coach at my alma mater, Berkeley High School, and head JV basketball coach. My grandmother, as a lot of you know, passed away from ovarian cancer, and we started her foundation in 2004. And since that time, I assisted with their fundraising efforts, and I became a full-time board member in 2008. Melissa Sharpstein and I created and co-chaired our annual race one step closer to the cure for a few years together, and I've been instrumental with that. And we have given close to $1 million to patients that are struggling with ovarian cancer. I also volunteer with Keeping Health Beautiful, right around the corner here at High Point Elementary. I'm a lunch pal. I do the VA stand-down court, and it's on the website. Thank you.
I have quite literally spent as much time volunteering over the last decade as I have spent practicing law. I have served as the president of the Junior League of St. Petersburg, the president of the Patrick Brett Foundation, who has an endowment here at SBC, on the board of directors for the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation of Tampa Bay, for the Drug Free America Foundation, on the Mainsail Art Festival Committee, and many more. I think that that is something that is extremely important to me. I will continue to serve in capacities that are permitted with nonprofits as a judge, and I think that that is just incredibly important that our profession is out there in the community volunteering, and I have done that extensively. I have lent my legal services to many of those nonprofits in reviewing their contracts and their governing documents, and that is something I am incredibly passionate about.
You know, knowing at some point during this campaign that I was going to be asked this question, I wrote down the things that I have done over the years, and I discovered I have a common theme. That I seem to like to do activities that I'm doing with kids and have something to do with teaching. One of the favorite things that I have done over the years is St. Pete Christian. I go to their school, or now they come to me at the criminal court complex, and I talk to them about their civics, and I bring them there to try a case at our courthouse where I involve our assistant state attorneys, our assistant public defenders. Boy, our time goes fast. And court personnel, so they get to try cases. I've worked for the Boys and Girls Club. I worked with them for a period of years. I really enjoyed the Lawyers for Literacy program that we did with Lucas Fleming, where we went at lunchtime and we helped teach kids to read so they could read their pass their FCATs. I've done numerous other things. Some of my teaching was what we get paid at Stetson. It's almost pro bono work, but I do enjoy doing that, and I'm doubtful that I have to stop talking. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'll break it up like Mr. Finelli did. I'll talk about my pro bono work as an attorney. Most of the time, I've done numerous clients for pro bono work, basically more so evictions. Those people don't have any money in the first place. That's why they're getting evicted, so they need legal help. So I step in and I've done a lot of pro bono work for evictions. On my personal side, I found my passion is animals. I've done a voluminous amount of work for animal rescue organizations. I do a lot of their legal work, pro bono, never take a fee. Also on my website, I've been doing this for about 10 years. Any and all monies I receive from estate planning documents goes directly to the animal rescue shelters as a donation. I never take a fee. So, and if my wife were here to hear that, she'd probably kill me. So she's not here to do that. But yes, I'm known as the cat man in the neighborhood. I've trapped tons of cats and get them spayed, neutered, or released so they don't have kittens, because that does bother me when I see that. But in addition, I work for Kansas City Police Department for free, don't take any pay. I'm in firearms training, and I also help the officers clean and maintain their firearms. Thank you.
As regards to my practice, I take pro bono cases through the community law program, participate in the Menace legal clinics that they offer for low-income people. I've served as chair of the St. Pete Bar's Maryland Family Law section, where I put on seminars for attorneys and judges. In my personal life, I'm very involved in the Seminole Lake Rotary. I serve on the board as secretary. Through that foundation, we pack food every third Friday for distribution at different food pantries, collect money and toys for distribution to all the kids in foster care in Pinellas County at Christmas time. Do a lot of activities through Rotary. And there's a number more that I'm not drawing a blank on right now. But I'm also a volunteer for the Seminole High School Football Boosters. If you saw in the news last year, their treasurer stole about $42,000 from them. And so my wife and I have been working this year to rebuild that program. I volunteer at Deer Beach Fundamental School on their Intervention and Appeals Committee. That's where you meet with kids who have been disciplined and determine what they need. Thank you.
Well, I started at the Public Defender's Office, so there was the 10 years there representing the people who really need it more than anyone else in our system, as you all know. But outside of that, a couple of areas. Tennis. Many of you know I played tennis at St. Petersburg High School. Our home court was Bartlett Park, which has a beautiful tennis facility. And so I started early, in the early years, giving camps and free tennis lessons at Bartlett Park, which has always been encouraging the kids there to develop in tennis, trying to find the next Venus and Serena, which I think we will find one of these days here in St. Petersburg. But also, as I've moved into other things like triathlon and running, I like to volunteer at St. Anthony's Triathlon, which I did this year, the end of April, and at the local running races, at the water stops, handing out water, cheering for the local athletes. I really like that. And then anything related to dog rescue. I've rescued dogs, and that's all I can tell you about.
All right, Judge Meyer made a good point. We should be mixing this up. Are you ready, Judge Dewey?
Ready.
I know you just talked. All right, describe one lesson you learned as an attorney in the courtroom or a judge that you will bring with you or have brought with you to the bench.
Just one? Just one. Well, so many lessons to learn. Lessons at the Public Defender's Office that last for life, of course, compassion, empathy, the importance of making sure those that don't have access to the courts are able to get access to the courts. That's a lesson that lasts for life. And that you recognize as a judge and you see things on the bench that remind you of the importance of compassion, empathy, and making sure all citizens have access to the courts, which, as you know, is very difficult and I think become more difficult over the years. So I would say that's probably one of the most significant lessons among many, and that's my 1 minute.
Well, a lesson that I learned it in law school and then throughout my career is about your reputation. It's the most important thing that you have as an attorney. Judges should be able to take you at your word and what you're saying. Judge Pacdl, my civil procedures class, taught us that. We always hammered that, and it's always stuck with me. That you see incidents every day in the courtroom where people's reputation is being tracked by their own actions. And so I think upholding your own reputation and keeping a high standard for yourself is the most important lesson I've learned. Thank you.
This over my career as attorney, I think one of the most poignant things that I've recognized was when I was a younger attorney, I had an incident in court where it got very nasty between the judges and the attorneys, and honestly that was a very disturbing event for me. With the client sitting there, the client was very, very upset at what's going on because they didn't understand. So I swore from that time on, if I ever got on the bench, that decorum in the courtroom would be my #1 priority, and there would be no disorderly conduct or behavior, and that's what stuck with me in my legal career. Thank you.
I think the #1 thing that stuck with me in regards to being a lawyer and as a judge, and when I found out I had an opponent, I went back to my box in 2004 and I pulled out my brochure from that time, and I look a lot younger, but my main thing on it was placing a value on professionalism and ethics. which is what I brought as an attorney and that I was bringing to the bench with me. I remember one incident when I was changing jobs from working with Chip Merlin over in Tampa over to work with Harris Barrett Man and Dew because I wanted to be back over here in Pinellas. It was, I reached out to Harris Barrett Man and Dew. I had had cases with attorneys there, and I got that job because they were able to say, you know, we worked with Kathy on the other side. She was always professional, she was always ethical, and that helped me get that job. And I brought that to the bench because I wanted to make sure that when I was a judge, that we did maintain professionalism and ethics in our courtroom, and we treated everybody well there.
There is a lot, but I think one thing that has really stuck with me is from my first few years of practicing when I was doing a lot of foreclosures. A lot of the defendants were unrepresented and they really just wanted to be heard. They knew that they were probably going to get foreclosed on, but they just wanted someone to listen to them. And it could be me who is representing the plaintiff or the judge. It didn't matter. They just wanted their day in court to be heard. They knew what the eventual outcome would be, and I think that's something that has stuck with me, that people in and out of the courtroom really just want to be heard. They want to be given their fair opportunity to tell their story, and that's something that has really stuck with me and that I will take to the bench.
Well, Judge Hessinger kind of alluded to what I was going to say, but with me, it's one of my 3 core tenets would be the compassion. You know, not only, I didn't start learning about compassion, being compassionate when I became a public defender. I became a public defender because I am compassionate for people. You know, I grew up here, our family was well off, and I knew kids who were in the juvenile system through high school, families were always in it. So that's why I decided to start as a public defender, and that's why I eventually went back. And also doing a lot of work in the last few years, when I was in private practice with Pacdl and the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I know the compassion it is for the attorneys that practice in the courtrooms as well, not just the clients or the underrepresented. So my compassion will be for everyone that comes in the courtroom, and that's from all my days in the courthouse, the clerks, the bailiffs, our fellow judges, other state attorneys, public defenders, RCC attorneys.
I think I'm going to have to go along with Judge Hessinger here. I think professionalism is definitely the most important lesson that I've learned over my 18 years of practicing. We're advocates, but we all, at the end of the day, are on the same team, right? And that's the team of all being professional and treating each other with respect and making sure people have access to the courts. So I have tried over 70 jury trials, and in the vast majority of those, while we're in trial, we are zealous advocates, but then we're also very professional toward each other, treat each other with respect, and also the judges treat people with respect. It's a two-way street, so I think it's very important that everyone in the courtroom is professional toward each other and treat everyone with respect.
I guess what I've learned over the last 22 years is you never stop learning if you're doing this job correctly as a lawyer or as a judge. And you need to be open to that, you need to be humble and can maintain your humility. Never think that you're the smartest person in the room, because they usually are not. Be straightforward with who you're dealing with and tell that person, I don't understand what you just said. Please tell me that again, like you're coming to my class. I'm in 5th grade and it's career day, okay? So I think humility is just a lesson that I've learned over and over again, and the importance of keeping an open mind. It's kind of like jury instructions, how we're instructing jurors and how they're supposed to be operating and deciding our cases that we presented to them. We should be following those same lessons. We need to keep an open mind. I remember as a baby prosecutor, I had to I had to go down and tell police officers whether or not we were going to file their case. Representing criminal defendants as an appointed lawyer, I had to do the same thing. I had to talk to them and be blunt, but also keep an open mind, not just say, oh yeah, that doesn't sound right, boom, there's the decision. So keep an open mind, be humble, be fair.
I would echo a lot of what the candidates have said here about things like professionalism and honesty and fairness. I think one thing too that a lot of the candidates here have that I think I would like to mention is probably one of the most important lessons is work ethic. Because I think everybody that's up here has probably worked very hard to get to this stage. Work ethic and preparedness for court, to me, is essential. You know, we've probably all been in that hearing or that trial where the opponent across the way from you is not prepared and it gets a little awkward. And it's just, we each have our individual ways in which we're motivated by that. Maybe it's a fear of failure or something like that. But I think as though that being prepared for court and having that expectation for counsel that appear before you in the courtroom is very, very vitally important. So that's probably one of the things that I've learned most from my career as an attorney, besides the other things everybody's articulated.
Okay, next question. What will you do to ensure the incarcerated defendants get their day in court without undue delay? And let's go ahead and keep mixing it up. Megan, we'll start with you.
I think that respecting everyone's time and access to courts is paramount. So as a judge, I will do everything in my power to move things along while giving both sides the opportunity to do the discovery that they need to do, to have all of the information that they need, but move things along as efficiently as possible. The backlogs, both criminal and civil, that we're dealing with throughout Florida are a real problem, and I am committed to moving those backlogs forward and ensuring that defendants and all parties have their fair and timely access to the courts.
So, you know, through the pandemic, we learned that not all things will go as we thought. And so, obviously, it all depends upon, you know, what the sheriff can do to make sure incarcerated defendants can get to us, what the guidelines are doing for us to be able to have open access. You know, we have the video systems. We tried Zoom, tried every which way. But the key is to make sure, particularly in county court, where defendants are either looking at 60 days or 364 days in jail, they need to get into court as soon as possible. So I'll make sure that cases are moving forward, attorneys are doing what they need to do. If someone's unrepresented, they need to come over to court, they're going to come over to court very quickly. So having been there every day, learning from the judges, some of them up here, I will use those skills to do it.
So I was a prosecutor for 10 years, so I know what it is to have a very heavy caseload and to need to move that caseload along. I will use that experience to keep my cases moving, to handle the docket. It is very important that people in county court, especially those who are unrepresented, have a chance to be heard, and we have to treat them with patience and with respect. And I think that one of the ways that you can move those cases along is by actually listening to their concerns, giving them real answers, and giving them reasonable expectations up front. I think a lot of it is early expectations, and then we can move those cases along. Thank you.
Well, I haven't been in crime, I think, in 9 years, but I do read the newspaper and watch TV. But I can remember back when I was a prosecutor and also as a judge, we would do this thing every once in a while called rocket docket, where you get people out of jail that don't need to be there and get cases worked out. And just putting people together in the courtroom and discussing things, it helps a lot. Also getting a new face in there, bringing in a senior judge every once in a while to preside over those proceedings. I remember from private practice, I got rid of some of my oldest cases pretty quickly when I figured out someone else was going to be covering the docket that day or covering the bench that day. And this job, as far as dealing with pro se individuals, you just need to be patient. We've had characters, send letters to me where they've drawn a caricature of me and written some really nasty things on it, and then I had to see the person like the next day in court. But instead of being irritated, I complimented the man on his artistic skills. He made me look really buff in the picture. You need to be patient, and you have a client that wants to get in front of the judge, you need to do everything you can to get in front of the judge.
So I have to say that I don't really have any criminal experience other than having been through a courtroom while waiting for something else. But I do think as though that our system provides us, that is our ultimate responsibility, is to provide fairness to those that are facing criminal prosecution before us. It's simply put, it's the way our system is supposed to run, and it's supposed to run efficiently. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there as far as keeping folks that shouldn't be in jail to make sure to get them out, as Judge Meyer recommended. I think that's an excellent suggestion. And be patient, be fair with these folks. You know, there's a lot of times you're dealing with unrepresented, you're dealing with folks with mental issues, mental disabilities and things of that nature. I think those are all very important, and we just have to be patient, we have to be fair, and we have to listen. Thank you.
Yes. All right, I'm pretty certain that every criminal defense lawyer sitting in this courtroom is not going to question my efficiency. I think they think I move too fast in my courtroom. I am efficient. I run my docket. I'm not behind. My defendants who are incarcerated, they come to court physically every time they have a court date. If they want a trial, they can get their trial within 4 weeks. That's usually when I set mine out. So when somebody comes in and says they want a trial, they're like, oh, wait a minute, Judge, not that fast. But that's what I do. I've set out, and I've always kept a very efficient courtroom. Even coming out of COVID, I was running my calendar very consistently, and I was not backed up when we came out. The minute we were allowed to try cases on those Fridays in December of 2020, I was trying cases. I've tried 18 jury trials this year alone, and so I'm extremely efficient, and I'm pretty certain I'm taking care of all those incarcerated defendants that need to be there. Thank you.
Yes, I think prioritizing cases is probably a good move. If you're a judge, you want to go ahead and move the cases that need prioritization first. And I think one thing that the sheriff has done in this community is he has a lot of diversionary programs in place that are very helpful to kind of lessen the amount of people in jail. So I think part of that problem is solved by these diversionary programs, and as a judge, I think you can facilitate that and maybe go ahead and work the cases a little faster than you would had you had to have a trial or some other hearing. But I think prioritization is probably the key component of that. Thank you.
So I think effective calendar management, you know, the way as a judge that you manage your calendar is very important in moving cases along. But I also, and a lot of the things that were already said, so I'm not going to repeat them, but also the effective use of technology. You know, there's new rules coming out by the Florida Supreme Court of how we can use technology, and there's a lot of unnecessary hearings sometimes where it's just continuances because somebody didn't get discovery. And if those things could be handled through technology on Zoom, that could free up some of the court's time. So that's how I would do that. Thank you.
Well, I spent 7.5 years in a criminal division, and when I took over the division in 2008, it had 1,600 cases, and when I left it, it was down to 800 cases, roughly, so 16 plus to 800 plus. So I consider myself to be very efficient, and that to be a strong point that I bring to the bench. And how you do that is you set cases for trial, and then you try them, and it's that simple. And what you need to do is you've got to wait till that case is at issue. As soon as it's at issue, you've got to get that trial date on the calendar. And in criminal divisions here, they're set every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so it's a heavy duty setting of jury trials in the Pinellas County criminal justice system. I mean, I think that's why it's worked so efficiently. It's one of the most efficient counties in the state. It's incredibly efficient across all divisions in this county, and we're really fortunate to have that. But that setting the trial so that incarcerated individuals get their date in court that they know is coming up, that's how you resolve and move the cases.
Okay, next question. The Florida Supreme Court recently adopted the COVID-19 work group proposals for remote court proceedings. Your thoughts using Zoom or other remote methods, and under what types of hearings would you use it? And let's start with Judge Hessinger.
Perfect person for that. Okay, so criminal court absolutely hates Zoom. It became the #1 unequalizer in the courts. And that is because during COVID I discovered how many people do not have access to Wi-Fi, how many people do not have proper electronic to be able to appear in court by electronic means. I basically would call my courtroom the three-ring circus, and that is because I would have people that would come into court, defendants, while their attorneys were on Zoom. I'd have defendants that they could hear me, they could see me, I could see them, but I couldn't hear them. I would have to call them on the telephone. So in criminal, I don't think it is very effective. I am glad that we don't have any mandatory rules for criminal. Civil, I think, is very effective because we'll be using some of the same things that we did prior to COVID, that we use a telephone, but now we'll be using Zoom. But I have gone back to no Zoom. I have had no complaints whatsoever, and everybody who comes in the courtroom feels like they are on the equal footing. Thank you.
Well, I can personally tell you, I love Zoom in the civil setting. I found myself having a 5-minute hearing, and you can get on Zoom and get it done in 5 minutes. You don't have to drive, you don't have to do anything. Before we had Zoom, you had to drive 30 minutes to the courthouse, walk in, sit there, and then drive 30 minutes home. It was a colossal waste of time. In the criminal setting, the only Zoom hearings I've had were traffic court. Matter of fact, one of the judges is in here that I've been in front of a couple times in traffic court. I thought it worked well. We didn't have any problems with people showing up on Zoom. So that's just my experience with it. I personally like it.
I'm in favor of Zoom, as I said earlier. I think in criminal court it could be used for non-evidentiary motions. In family and civil court, again, for non-evidentiary matters, and I think it could be effective also for trials if there's extenuating circumstances. You have, parties who may be relocated out of state. I think it can be very effective. I think it saves clients time and money. It allows them not to have to take time off from work to attend a 15-minute hearing. They can do that from the convenience of their office. During the pandemic with Zoom, I was able to have a final hearing in Dade City, Bradenton, and Pinellas County all in the same morning, and whereas before it would have taken all day just to go to Dade City, with my client would have to pay 3 hours for travel. So I think it's very effective use of technology.
Well, I would agree with that, and in civil, it's been so helpful to have Zoom capability and just conferences on the phone. So a lot of hearings in civil can be done by the phone. Case managements, for example, we have a lot of those, or a pretrial conference. Things that are quick, where you just need to talk to the lawyers, you get them on the phone. Things that are evidentiary in nature in civil, or more substantive in terms of the depth or breadth of argument, you can do by Zoom. And it saves the lawyers a fortune because they're not having to drive to court. They can be in their offices. They can schedule them back to back all day long, and so can the judges, which is great. And it's so efficient having Zoom capability. And it also prevents parties from having to travel. Some of them in civil cases, lawyers and parties have to travel throughout the state. Lawyers are coming from South Florida all the time. Even lawyers licensed in other states handling cases here, and they're not having to travel because of Zoom. So it's fantastic to have that.
I'm going to give the classic lawyer answer. It depends. So I agree very much with what the rest of the panel says as far as it being very good in the civil setting. I think it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome in a large criminal docket. I could definitely see the problems there with that. The benefits, as I say, it's very good. Myself being a sole practitioner, saving time driving from one courthouse to another. I practice in 3 different counties. And it saves also clients time as well. One of the things that I sometimes have a little bit of an issue with, and I think it would be an issue too as a judge when you're using Zoom, is that, of course, observing witness demeanor is a very important part of your job. And I think sometimes on Zoom that might be a little bit more of a challenge to always get dialed in as if they were maybe sitting in the same room with you. And I'm sure we've all had those stories on Zoom where somebody's doing something in the background that they shouldn't be, right? We've all had those. So again, like a lot of things, it's not all good, it's not all bad. It has its positives and its benefits. Thank you.
So if you go on my practice preferences, you'll see this term, and I worked really hard on it. It's called video conference technology. It's because I'm totally paranoid about promoting some sort of service. And so we've heard the Z word a lot today, and that's why I try to avoid it. I follow the rules, and the rules of civil procedure are changing to make remote conferencing hearings more the norm. I am someone who's done multi-day bench trials staring at a computer screen, and it's not a lot of fun, okay? So when we have the ability now to have people into a courtroom, big spaced out courtroom, to go through a 10-day construction law trial, that's a lot preferable to the judge and to the attorneys, I think, than that. Another thing that is often overlooked, though, is that all these remote hearings is taking away from the traditional role of what we call coverage counsel on local civil cases, and that's having an economic impact, I think, that people don't really think about. But I'm open to it. One story, I know I'm out of time. I was having a hearing, and the lawyer was trying to make an example. It's a big insurance case. And he said, "Judge, I'm staring out the window at my boat right now, and I can tell you that it's not." And I said, "Excuse me, I'm staring out the window at the old jail because I'm at the courthouse." Anyway, those are my thoughts.
So I've found Zoom or video conference technology to be incredibly effective in the civil realm. You can get a lot more done in a lot less time. You really can get more hearings set. Mediations, I think I never want to go to an in-person mediation again. I think that they are incredibly efficient. I don't think that jury trials are ever going to be replaceable. I think a jury trial in person really is important for a lot of different reasons that we don't have time to get into. But in the criminal courts, because of the way that the dockets are scheduled and because of just the way that everything is set up, I understand why it would not work nearly as well. Because you don't have hearing time. Everyone is set for 8:30 and the docket runs as long as it runs, and I can see how that would be really, really troublesome to try to work that out on Zoom. So I do understand in criminal court, I think you can use it as much as you can use it, but if it stops being efficient, then stop being efficient.
Having been in the PD's office and part of Pacdl right when pandemic hit, and learning how to run Zoom and manage all of our meetings through it and doing my own hearings on it, I'm in favor of it. But there are a lot, I agree with Judge Juanolino and Judge Hessinger, there's a lot to be said about having everybody be able to come into court, but a lot of times that just is not practical either. I do understand obviously the misfortunes for those that have no access to it, so I would not demand that everyone has to always appear that way. They want to come to court, court is open, but it is very effective. In fact, I'm still practicing day in, day out at the public defender's office. In May, I had a jury trial where the state and I agreed that the witness appeared via Zoom from Connecticut. And unfortunately, we didn't have to continue the trial because I was incarcerated. They didn't have to pay $1,000 to fly her down, so we saved the taxpayers some money, and we won the trial, so that was great.
As with most things, I think a hybrid model is best. Zoom has saved an exorbitant amount of time. I am definitely in favor of it on many small, minor to even moderate civil hearings. I just drove to Lake County last week for a 5-minute small claims pretrial with a pending motion to invoke the rules and waive appearance at the pretrial that was signed yesterday. So Zoom would have definitely saved a lot of parties a lot of time if it had been utilized in that case. So I definitely think that it is a good step in the right direction that is great for fixing the backlog and really getting everyone that access to the courts.
All right, you guys are doing great. We're respecting time, so we got enough time for an extra question here. What do you do to stay up to date on case law, opinions, and statute changes? And Scott, we'll just start with you.
Sure. So I usually look at the Florida Law Weekly Journal that comes out. That's one of the things. And I kind of hover around the Florida Bar's website quite a bit as well, because you get a lot of updates. And that's, I think, a really good way to get current with a lot of issues that are coming before or recent changes in the law. You'll get those daily news summaries or certain news releases. And that's kind of, I think, one of the best ways, I think, in which to stay abreast of. Because, of course, as we know, the law is an ever-evolving animal. So we always need to, as many have said, keep learning and never think you know everything. There's usually somebody out there that knows more than you. So that's what I do personally. Thank you.
I go home and I talk to my wife, Nancy Meyer. I would be remiss if I didn't point out the finest attorney in the room. No offense to everyone else. I am pandering, of course. We are actually blessed. We have very, very good staff attorneys, and Christina Everton Kappa, I believe is her full name, sends out something to all the civil judges as soon as there's a change, as soon as a statute is tweaked, as soon as there's a new case. She sends out an analysis, so I'm blessed to not have to go, research and find things. They're brought to me. It's like, this has changed. This is what it means. This is why you need to know this, judge. And then we're also blessed to, or I'm blessed, I'm kind of a nerd, and so when I get a new case, I like to go learn every single thing about that case, and 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some issue in the case I've never dealt with, so I get to constantly research just doing my job every day. That's my answer. Thank you.
We'll just keep going down the line.
I love Florida Law Weekly. I read every single case, even when it doesn't apply to me, because I am also a bit of a nerd. We also have a lot of great communication in our firm, the lawyers. Every time we learn something new, we immediately email it to everyone else and say, hey, did you know this? This is new. I love going down a research rabbit hole, and I think you can learn a lot that way. Sometimes it takes up a bit of my time, but again, I'm a bit of a law nerd. I love the practice of law, and I don't know, learn something new every day, hopefully multiple things every day.
So, yeah, we obviously being in the public defender's office and being a member of Pacdl and Pacdl and, part of a lot of listservs, but fortunately, we had a prior employee that was doing it for both the FPDA and Pacdl, but they would break down the Florida Law Weekly and all the criminal stuff each week, each weekly. We would get it, and then sometimes we'd find a lawyer in our office that had access to it, so I'll definitely make sure as a judge, I'll keep my access to it. Same thing with all the DCAs and the Supreme Court, and then also some other, whether it's, I'll start learning all the civil stuff eventually as well. But, also keeping my active with the criminal law section of the Florida Bar, and I just got a Facebook post earlier today, their criminal law updates as well. So I'm always doing research. Luckily, you can't really walk down our hallway without someone yelling out something about a new case or how the judge needed a little more education. I'll be up for that as well.
I definitely utilize Florida Law Weekly. It's a great resource that we use in our firm. Also tracking on Lexis, you can bookmark statutes or cases that you use a lot and get notified when they change. That's also a great tool. Working in property insurance, there's a lot of law changes often, so I track that on our legislature's website as well. So just staying up to date, having open communication with other lawyers from within our firm and other firms is how I like to stay up to date.
My husband, Tim, always says that he married me because I was a geek. I think all of us judges have a little bit of geek in us and enjoy reading the law, and that's what I like to do in my downtime. Is we do get the updates through the emails from the legal end of the administration. We also like as judges to sit around and talk about the law. Judge Indringa and I, when we were in civil, one of our fun things that we would do in the afternoon, he'd say, Hessinger, go look up this statute. And I'd go, we'd pull it, and we would just find this obscure statute and just tear it apart and have fun learning it. Next door to me now I've got Judge Lawhorn. I call him Junior because he reminds me of Judge Indringa. He likes to just find minute issues and we sit around and we talk to him. Judge Simitovich and Verkara, who's sitting over there, we'll get an issue, something new will come in and we'll sit around and we'll talk about it, we'll tear it apart and look at it at all different angles. That's a great part about our family of being judges and being together dealing with the issues. Thank you.
I've been teaching the police academy here in Pinellas for 16 years, so it's very important for me to keep updated on the laws because I do the law portion of the academy for all new recruits. So I too subscribe to the Florida Law Weekly, and I also subscribe to another service called the Legal Eagle that comes out once a month. Great publication. Of course, the Florida Bar and other CLE programs put on classes for legal updates as well. In addition, LexisNexis puts out a book every year for legal updates, and of course I use that in the police academy as well. So I try to stay up to date on the newest and greatest laws that come out. That's how I do it. Thank you.
Like almost everyone else said, Florida Law Weekly. Get it every week, read it every week. Also, I lead a Florida Law Weekly study group each month that's attended by a lot of attorneys and judges, and we go through each issue, talk about the cases in there. And that's the St. Pete group. Clearwater has a group, and we just organized one for Pasco too that's going to start next month. So that's important. And also regularly attending CLEs to stay up to date. Thank you.
Well, the Florida Law Weekly, of course. The second DCA website, that's a great tool. They come out with opinions every Wednesday and Friday generally, so I like to go there. Also, the CJE, the Continuing Judicial Education, we have requirements just like CLE requirements. And those are great offerings in the state, and not just conferences, but by webinar as well. So I've doubled the minimum requirement every recording cycle. It's something I really enjoy. It's a great way to find a topic that there will be a webinar coming up on. You want to update yourself on that topic. You can just sign up for that webinar, and it's a really great, useful resource. So that's something I've really enjoyed as well.
Okay, we've got just enough time to give everybody a closing statement, a 1-minute closing statement. Judge Newton, we'll start with you and just come down the line.
Well, again, my name is Cynthia Newton. I appreciate you having us here today. It's been a pleasure being here, getting an opportunity to speak to Pacdl, the Clearwater Bar. So great to see you. I don't think we'll see you again before the election, so this might be your last opportunity to see all of us. I hope we've lived up to your expectations and provided you with some good nuggets to take home with you and remember us by. I ask for your vote on August 23rd and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Attorney Nick Fiorentino, running for Circuit Court Judge Group 22. Been practicing in the circuit for nearly 20 years, family law, personal injury, probate, civil. For the last 17 years, I've been a critical incident attorney for the Suncoast and Florida PBA. In that capacity, I respond to officer-involved shootings, in-custody deaths, major accidents, and represent the officer, whether it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., and represent them until the conclusion of that case, whether it's criminal, civil, or administrative. I'm also a Supreme Court certified family law mediator, qualified arbitrator, and parent coordinator. I want to thank you all for being here today, and I'm asking for your vote on August 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ken Afienko, and I just wanted to say real quick, I've been in public service since 1981, and I continue to do so in that capacity, and of course I will continue to do that on the bench as well. It's been a passion my whole life. I've known nothing else. I've done a good job. If you look up my credentials, I left a card on the table. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I've had an outstanding reputation among the legal community, and I would ask that you consider me on August 23rd. Thank you.
I brought the trial skills that I had as a trial attorney to the bench, my writing skills, writing appeals, and arguing before the second DCA to the bench. I brought my teaching skills to the bench, and I have used that over the last 17 years. I have been endorsed by the Tampa Bay Times. I have been endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association. I have been endorsed by Sarah Malo, the public defender. I have been endorsed by the clerk of the court, Ken Burke. I have been endorsed by 20 St. Pete and Clearwater Bar past presidents. I have been endorsed by retired sheriffs Coates and Everett. And on my committee, I have the Chief Assistant State Attorney as a committee member, Kendall Davidson, and I also have the Division Director, Frank Piazza from the State Attorney's Office. I have been supported by everyone across the aisle, across different levels of the bar in support of my re-election. The Tampa Bay Times ended their endorsement with Judge Hessinger as intelligent, experienced, and has a solid judicial demeanor that helps her run an efficient courtroom. I thought that they hit the nail on the head. Thank you.
Sorry. Again, Megan Roach, I would be honored to have your vote on August 23rd. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I believe that my unique experience with practicing throughout the state, whether it's a jury trial in Miami or a bench trial in the Panhandle, uniquely prepares me to serve Pinellas County on the bench. In addition, I have been an active volunteer with the St. Pete Bar. I just finished serving as the Civil Trial Section Chair, as well as a volunteer for many local nonprofits. And I'm ready now to serve this community and our profession as a county court judge. I'm committed to continuing my record of community service and giving back to this community that has given me so much. I have been endorsed by hundreds of my colleagues, as well as many local elected officials and leaders. I have led my race in fundraising for the last year, and I will continue that commitment to hard work once elected. Thank you.
Experience, compassion, community. The last 18 years practicing day in, day out here in the court system, Pinellas, Pasco, Tampa Bay, and being the only board-certified lawyer in our group. It goes a long way. 45 jury trials, from disorderly conducts, 5 first-degree murders, cab sex bats, armed robberies, PRR cases. I've done every big case, every little case you can think of, represented thousands of people. So I know the people that are coming to people's court. You guys, most of you all know me, my leadership with Pacdl, other bar associations. I am endorsed by my boss, Sarah Marlowe, old boss, Bob Dillinger, former mayor of St. Pete, Rick Kreisman, County Commissioner Renee Flowers, the Pinellas National Organization for Women, and the St. Petersburg Firefighter Association. I've got former state attorneys, current state attorneys, lots of public defenders, lots of defense bars supporting me. Thank you.
I'm Della. I have been an attorney here in Pinellas County for nearly 18 years now. I was a prosecutor for 10 years, worked my way up through the office as assistant county court director, where I trained and supervised all of the county court attorneys, actually taught them how to practice in county court, all of my way up to the career criminal division. I've been practicing civil law for the last 8 years. For over 4 years, I worked for Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, handling his civil defense practice. And now I work in a small firm handling civil plaintiffs litigation. I have over 70 jury trials, and I have been in court day in and day out for my entire career. I am endorsed by Sheriff Bob Gualtieri. I'm endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association, the Tampa Bay Area Chiefs of Police. The Tampa Bay Times gave me their recommendation. I am also endorsed by Ken Burke, the clerk of the court, Charles Thomas, the tax collector, many local mayors, and many, many, many of my colleagues. Thank you very much, and it would be my greatest privilege to serve as your next county court judge.
First, I'm glad Judge Luce is not here, because he would freak out if I was giving my closing argument this far away from the podium. Some of you folks know what I'm talking about. But no, I mean, just go online. I'm glad we're taping this as well. You all are all very smart people, and you do your homework before you make extremely important decisions, like who you want to elect as your next circuit and county judges. And I know the folks online that are watching this later will have that same opportunity. Go to the Florida Bar's website. There's voluntary self-disclosures. There's everything you ever wanted to know but were afraid to ask about me. Again, I'm an open book. The League of Women Voters has a similar resource. I think it's InfoVote 411. Just Google League of Women Voters. It's a similar questionnaire. We all had an opportunity to fill it out. But you know, if you want a judge that's going to go to work every day and be happy to be there, and is going to issue a ruling based on the law and the facts of the case, without fear or favor as to somebody's reaction to it, please consider voting for me. Today, actually. But certainly on or before August 23rd. Thank you very much. VoteKeithMeyer.com.
Yes, and thank you to Pacdl and to the Clearwater Bar Association for hosting this very valuable judicial forum. It's very important that we get a sense of what our judicial candidates, their backgrounds and things like that. I was a public school teacher, as I said earlier, for 9 years prior to rolling the dice and taking a gamble on this thing called law school that you've all done as well. And when I got out of law school, I had spent some time prior to that as a legal intern for the Honorable Dan Walensky, a family law judge in Clay County. When I got out of law school, I was a temporary attorney for Bay Area Legal Services before I got this job where I've been doing predominantly family law along with some probate, some general civil, and some personal injury. I know I'm not the traditional judicial candidate. I have to say, you know, my background's a little bit different. It's a little bit unique, I guess, to what you typically see from a judicial candidate. But my hope is that you guys give me your consideration on August 23rd if you haven't done so already. Scott, thank you.
All right, let's give all 9 candidates another round of applause. You know, I have a passion for covering the courts, and it truly was my honor to moderate this forum. Thanks so much. And let me introduce Tim Soul.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
If we could give Josh a big round of applause. We actually got Bay News 9 to expedite our request that he come be a moderator. You know, when we were planning this event, we thought about, you know, what could we do to make this as fair as for all of you. And you know, we know that everyone in this room probably has a dog in at least one of the fights in this election. So we wanted to have someone that we knew that would come in that would be impartial and fair, and I think he did a great job. So thank you. Just a couple of announcements for Pacdl members and also for non-Pacdl members. I'm glad that we did this in person. I know that a lot of my colleagues disagree with me about Zoom. I love going and doing things in person. Fought with everyone about it, so I'm glad we did this in person here today. Our August monthly meeting, though, will be back on Zoom. Super exciting meeting, August 18th at noon. Seth Miller from the Innocence Project and exoneree Robert Dubois, Life After Exoneration. And then mark this one on your calendars now, September 22nd, just like this, state attorney candidate forum. So September 22nd, it's going to be at noon, and we're going to have a room that's much bigger than this. Okay? So thank you everyone again for coming. Thank you to all the candidates. I thought you all did great. Pinellas and Pasco have some great options. Thank you very much.